What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to another video. It's your boy Deep Art, and we back with another video. And today we got a special video for y'all. Today we want to go ahead and dabble into the history of video games and just the art of how some of these video games played a part in the shaping of the culture of society, right? So of our culture, right? So first era I want to go into is, man, I gotta start off with the PlayStation. I gotta start off with the 1990s, early 2000 uh, PlayStation games, right? I'm talking about the PlayStation, not even just the PlayStation 2 just yet, but just the PlayStation, right? So when we talk about the PlayStation, we gotta understand like these are just really well thought out, very methodical, nice and very creative one-player games, right? So you just play the games like Spyro and like what is that, like Legend of Zelda and stuff. Like these one-player games that you just sit down as a kid and you just play, right? By yourself. You may have your younger brother, younger sister, which would probably be me, watching you play, the play the game, right? But these are one-player games that you just plug in the controller and you just play, right? And this is very create. This is a very interesting time because people were able to, you know, of course, express their creativity in the video games, which took a lot of the form of. We're gonna talk about this later, but they took a lot of the form of the cartoons, um, from around that time frame of Ed, Ed and Eddie and Foster's Home with Imaginary Friends, Camp Lazlo, and Teen Titans, and these type of cartoons. A lot of the games, they took the structure of the cartoons because this was a time frame in which Cartoon Network was the primary source of entertainment for kids and young adults during this time frame. So, um, you know, this brought about a culture, um, being able to watch, Foster's Home of Imaginary Friends and Danny Phantom, SpongeBob, and was it Fairly Odd Parents, Hey Arnold. All of these shows were shows in which more dedicated to your siblings, right? So a lot of families were more catered to and structured, in unison with their family. Like kids would be more associated with their siblings, um, and and they would be brought together by cartoons. These type of cartoons because this was the culture. This was the norm. This was what was tying people together. It was cartoons. Like I said, whether it was Teen Titans or one of these other cartoons, this is what was bringing the kids together. Other than playing outside, of course, is one thing, but this is something that you could make sure because this is the culture. He was always trying to see, the next episode of whatever you were watching, whether it was Tom and Jerry, whatever it was any of these shows, right? And this is the primary thing that brought, you know, um, be, uh, brought families or siblings together because this was trending. This was the trend. It was cartoons. I say that to say, going into, of course, like I said, PlayStation games, right? You have the one player games, and you're able to play the game, and uh, this was a time frame where like I said, younger siblings or older siblings were able to connect with their younger siblings, in a specific way of the older sibling playing the game and the younger sibling watching, right? Um, which I think is a really you know probably that's probably as natural as it's going to get. I mean, it really doesn't get any more natural than that, uh, but when you move, younger sibling watching, your older siblings play game, right? But when you move to PlayStation, right, you're now getting to um a time frame, which is around the same time frame, a little bit newer. It's not as old, right? It's a little bit newer, but during this time frame of PlayStation, now you have multiple games. You have two-player games. You have a lot more two-player games. You have the GameCube, which you can play four-player games on, and now you're incorporating a lot more siblings, who can then play the game along with you, right? Of course, PlayStation 2 had very vital and just took its peak in its it made its mark in its one-player games this season right here, or uh um uh this time, right? So it's Jack and Daxter, Sly Cooper, Ratchet and Clank. Um, you know, you got all these Crash Bandicoot. Now you got all these games now, that are really making their mark. Sonic the Hedgehog. Um, in terms of like, yeah, not only just one player games, but also like multiplayer games. Like Mario and uh, Super Smash Bros. And these type of games as well. Right now, you're incorporating multiplayer games in which is, like I said, is what really brought about the bringing together of families, right? Um, you have Wii Sports, right? Because now, even if you progress even later, you get into having the Wii, and then Wii Sports and Wii Play, and these type of things, which now is incorporating like dads and stuff, right, in the mix. So now you got dads and moms playing the game, and connecting with the children on this type of level. Um, you know, Around what is it, 2005s and 2010s, right? Because now, you got the Wii, and this you have this sort of a connection going on. So the culture shift that you can see happening, between these time frames, is a culture that is, one, is dedicated more so to the sibling, and the older sibling, right, getting the shine, and being able to connect with the younger sibling, it's so very indirectly, but very so naturally, right, with the PlayStation, right. In the PlayStation 2 games, you have a little bit more of a competitive nature going on, between the siblings, and younger sibling maybe losing the game, winning the game, getting mad, getting angry, getting frustrated, getting the game taken away, stolen, you know, getting and this type of stuff going on. But now, same culture, just a slightly different interaction, right? But well noted, well noted. Because now, when you get to this phase, like, you have more of a competitive nature, which is good, right? It's good to have more of a competitive nature. You have diversity. You can always go outside. You can always come inside. You can always go outside and play. You can always come inside and play, right? But there's still a very strong hold on the video games, right? Or a very strong hold on the connection line between the siblings and the people in the house, right? So beyond this, when you get to a stage of moving to playing multiplayer games, in terms of like four-player games now, and incorporating the Wii and the dads and moms and stuff, now you have an even more interconnection going on in between the entire family, all under playing this game, right, or these games, right. And by this time, the trend is still heavy on these video games as entertainment online. Xbox Live, you now have Xbox Live, PlayStation, of course, and now the trends are now dedicated more so very quickly to Xbox Live, and what you can do to somebody on Call of Duty or something, right, or Halo, um, uh, right, and this becomes now more so the center point, or 2K, right. and this is now what not only draws people closer together to siblings, but also people closer together in terms of other folks or being able to connect with other folks on the internet, but in a structured way, and not just a structured way, but also being able to allow people who may not have siblings or people who may not have that to be able to connect with other people online, which is another thing, right? And when you take that into account, this is able to pull more people away from it's always giving a people a place because like we say, it takes a village to raise a child, right? And I don't even and I don't want to use raising as a sense of, okay, this is teaching a kid, this is no, it's just a kid having somewhere else to go and just being able to just be at, right, or connect with, right? And online service, especially for like kids who don't have other siblings, this is a place to be, right? You know where the kid is at, right? That's basically what I mean, right? So, or what we're trying to say, right? So you know where the kid is at, playing the game, online, connecting. Who is he connecting with? Just people online playing 2K, right? You may get mad or whatever. It's competitive, but you know exactly, at the very least, where he's at, where he's at. But then you get to a point of now you have this thing called social media. Um, I'm probably gonna make another video on this, to go into to dabble into like, social media and social media influence. But the thing about video games is video games has a more control and a more structured influence, unlike social media. Like video games, you know what you're gonna expect from a video game. A video game is more set, and it's set, and it has boundaries. You boundaries in a sense to where you know what it's going to give you. If you play a gory game, you know what to get out of that gory game. If you play like a Grand Theft Auto, you know what I'm saying, you know what you're going to get out of Grand Theft Auto. Yes, it's having an influence, but not necessarily influence. It's not having the type of influence that's going to make you want to go out and rob some. Like, no, because it's a at the end of the day, it's a video game. You know it's a video game. But when you take the aspect of social media, and I think that when social media gets equated to to the aspect of influence, there's some effects that can come with it that that there's some effects that come with it that are just that can have effects on people's behaviors to a sense to where now you know um moralization and a lot of demoralization comes into play, and a lot of other things come into play when social media becomes interconnected to the equation, right? Because in video games, even though like the stories you may have bad stories or whatever, but at the end of the day, it's still just a video game. When social media gets into play, it's people's real life stories in the form of a video, or in the form of a video game. And now, we have a serious problem, because now we're taking
Our minds were
taking
literally not meant
people's real
to
life stories and what
function that
happening in
way,
real life and real time, real
to be
people,
productive,
and
of
we're
course. But
conceptualizing
you know what
in
I'm
the
saying?
same tool and the same box that we use
Our
to play
bodies
video
were
games
meant
in.
to live in
Which I
such
think is a
hell
no-go,
to where
because
we're being
now
so technically and fundamentally sound
real life
that
experience and
we can't even
people's
enjoy
real
the
lives are being
own
conceptualized
the
and
own
processed the
benefits
same
of our
way
hard
a
work,
video game
right?
would, right? Because it's easy
It doesn't even
access
make
to get
scientific
right here
sense.
online, just like
You know
a
what I'm
video
saying?
game. Just
It
like the
breaks
TV show.
it
It's not.
breaks
It's a
the
complete and
the
totally
laws of
different thing.
science, right?
And I
It
think
breaks
that
it
this is
like
one of the
to
major
work
things
that
about the
hard
cell phone
and to not reap any sort of benefits of it. Like, it sounds cool, and it sounds like, you know what I'm saying, like some sort of machine can do that.
Have one of the greatest
but at the end of the day,
our morality as
your mind still being that of a human being,
and just like processing
naturally, regardless of how much you try, it's still going to feel some type of way. To, you know what I'm saying, putting in so much hard work and not reaping none of its benefits, and that's for a reason, right? It's for a scientific reason that you will feel some type of way, regardless of how much you try to cover it up. Putting in so much hard work and not getting nothing out of it, right? You know what I'm saying?
To the video game,
it's going to happen, right?
You know,
like,
and then
it's going to happen, right? There's a plateau, there's a limit. You know what I'm saying? There's something has to get poured back into.
Now,
you know what I'm saying? Like, when you commit a function and you do some sort of work, right?
In the form of a video game.
In order for the system, the functionalities of the system to continue running, something has to be poured back into that system, right? You know what I'm saying? And it isn't just, you know, the system is just gonna run forever without you having to at least plug it into some sort of wall, give it some electrical juice, or give it some other, you know what I'm saying, components that help, you know what I'm saying, coordinate, you know, give it some sort of nutrition or coordinate in order for it to work. You know what I'm saying?
But then, as well as, you know...
yeah, that's going to conclude this video right here. I'm not going to dive too much in this video. This video was a video specifically based on the subject of being fundamentally technically sound to perfection versus being efficient and being willing to take some shortcuts, you know, and extend from the fundamentals and technicalities of the... You know what I'm saying? The functions itself, in order to hit some points that you know what I'm saying, you know, that you need to hit in order to, like, you know, commit the job in a more efficient and effective way.
Right.
Anyway, peace and love. And yeah, we out this job.
The biggest pull from life that we're getting as human beings is the generalization of every experience. Every experience we have is generalized. Oh, it happens this way. Oh, it's just this is like, no, we're not really authentically experiencing things, and a lot of that is due to the fact that most people aren't really authentically experiencing things. It's due to the fact that everything is, you know, always in the form of, everything is generalized in the form of this video game, or this box, or this cell phone, right? So that's my biggest thing, you know, in terms of social media, in terms of the cell phone, in terms of, you know, things like this, right? I don't think social media was a good contribution to electronics. At least not in that way, as far as it took it from, you know, like Instagram, and due to the fact that you're taking not only now a play or a skit or a vine, you know, that somebody done put up, and it's a skit a play that somebody made, you know, that you watch and you laugh at as entertainment, right? You come on the app, or you come to the electronic device for the aspect of getting a laugh or some sort of entertainment, right? This is why you come to the box. This is why you turn on your phone and you click on a social media app, right, to get some sort of entertainment, correct? So this has become generalized in your mind that, okay, I'm going to this phone, I'm going to click on this, you know, app to get some sort of entertainment, okay? But at the same time, this is the same phone that you then use, you know, you click on, and then you go to another app in order to get, you know, real life information and real life stories, correct? Okay, so now this is the same device that you go into to connect with. It's the same device that you use for every single thing, right? The question is, the device that you're using, what do you generally use it for, right? How is your mind, or how is your brain looking at this device and saying, okay, so this is how I conceptualize my phone, right? I go in, I click on it, and I'm here to, I'm resting. I'm trying to watch something, or is it okay? I'm here. I'm clicking on this phone to do business. This is what I'm using it for. How is your brain really processing that? Because I, it's a. I feel like it's a matter of um you the cell phone and the way that it generalizes everything in terms of whether it be a video game, whether it be a real life skit or like some sort of entertainment skit, or whether it be somebody's real life story, or whether it be it becomes very easy to um you know get generalize a person's experience that has been blown up on the internet or that's been put on the internet as some sort of video game or as some sort of entertainment, because not only are you seeing it every day and you're seeing it so much, it's now being programmed into your mind that this is normal, right? The phone has a very is a very strong has a very very strong pull. It's a very very strong device because it can, in terms of being used as a tool of psychological warfare, um because there's too many variables to it that it can really do to you, or that it can really program you to process information, like, so if I was to show you continually people maybe going through something, right, or maybe being violence or something like this, right, can constantly being reiterated over the phone over and over again, you make it appear like it's normal, right? So this becomes normal, and this is my thing about social media, and this is my thing about electronic devices, right? Um, when you go through the process of really describing from, like I said, the aspect of video games, right, and of cartoons, this is on a level of, okay, you know what it is. You know it's just a game. A kid knows it's just a video game. They know it's just a cartoon, right? It's a cartoon. Somebody drew some type of artwork or whatever and put it in a form that you can interact with the art on a much deeper level, right? That's different than that's much different than you going on social media and seeing some sort of, something that's supposed to be real information, I guess, that actually portrays this type of stuff, right? Of something major or like a major incident that's really, involving somebody else's life and really involving somebody else's story, just what somebody else is really actually going through, which actually might um be traumatizing and hurting them on deeper levels than what's not being shown, right? And this is actually a person's life, right? Um, and when we get into that aspect of, broadcasting this, now we're putting other people's real stories and lives and generalizing them in the form of, okay, this is normal. And then we turn around and talk about humanity, and we talk about trying to, you know human there, and I think that's very I think it's um you'd have to be a comedian to think the process of social media has anything to do with humanity, or is any form of humanity at all, right? You'd have to be a real nut job to think that the process of um generalizing multiple people's achievements, accomplishments, setbacks, losses, or traumatizing events, and generalizing them all together like it's just one big normal thing. What are we really trying to do? Like, are we trying to see from a lens of first person, or view life in a sense or form of first person, or just being able to be a human being, and actually be able to make general decisions, life decisions, and just as a normal human being? Or are we just trying to generalize everything, and look at everybody's be able to I guess sort of synchronize everybody into a one conscious mind frame that doesn't incorporate the environment, or the or the location of the person and what they're experiencing. Now we're really actually stripping ourselves of our own, of many things, that of our own abundance, of our own. We're stripping ourselves of straight power, because now we're disconnecting from the location of where we're at, the environment, the goods and the bads of this environment, and now we're over connecting to a bunch of people from a bunch of other different environments, which is very wrong in many ways. I feel like it's a setback and as a hindrance in many different ways, to to connect like that, right? So I wanted to say that, because I think that I think that social media, I think this aspect of collectively pulling everybody's minds together like this is, it does a few things. I mean, the one thing is, everybody's information, is coming together, but at the same time, is the information really authentic, or is it information that's coming from what somebody else said all the way over here in Spain, right? You know what I'm saying? Is somebody in Alaska or something just, of course, expressing their own, experience, but a lot of the things that a lot of their input is based off the influence of what they have already seen on social media, or from this guy in Spain, right? So now the authentic input that you have, is not necessarily being shown. It's not necessarily authentic, and we're not getting the authentic. You know, you don't even have an authentic opinion or input. You know what I'm saying? So to try to make sense of this, it's that social media is taking away the authentic input of other people and their environment and their experiences, right? Video games don't do this, cartoons don't do this, right? Because we know it's a cartoon, we know it's a video game. But social media is such a rampant and such a changing and such a wild beast that is always rapidly growing and changing every day, that you don't have there's no control over it. You don't have there's no control over, you know, what has been set in place of this beast, right? Um there's no control of it, and it's to a point. It's so bad because it's very easy to, slander a person, or ripple a person, or do these type of things to a person, and then all of a sudden, now you have a million people from Alaska and Spain and Antarctica and all these other damn places talking, having, talking shit or having input on this one guy in in uh, uh in Switzerland or something, right? This one guy in Switzerland, you know. So it's like now, the guy in Switzerland, feels bad or whatever because somebody in Spain said about him, or somebody in Antarctica said about him, somebody Alaska, and from all these, different places, and you got hundreds of thousands of people watching and have negative impact on you, right? Um, so I'm saying this in a sense to where it's like, okay, you know, this is what I mean by, social media being a rampant beast that is just out of control, and there's no necessary control of it, because when you can do things like this, you can control now the patterns of a person and how they think, and just the general thought process of a person. You can mentally program a person to be demoralized or desensitized to serious important things, and this is really bad, because now when you incorporate that to the aspect of your own life, right, you may be getting desensitized to things that you should not be desensitized to, and desensitized to things that may hinder your growth, right? And this is like trauma. It rewires your mind to it's rewiring your mind to think a certain way, just like trauma would. If you go through a really rough experience, you become desensitized to certain things, right? Because of that experience. And there's no way for you to be able to properly handle certain situations. People judge people based off of, just what they just what is presented to them through a certain lens, right? And this lens could not be incorporating or interpreting the fact that, okay, what is the person's environment? What are the choices that the person has? Even has to even make proper decisions, and then to try to gauge the necessity of how far a person has gone, or like the magnitude of a person. You can't necessarily do that, because the person's magnitude really is dependent upon the person's environment and the choices that they have, right? If a person doesn't even have those choices in the first place to rise to the level of the expectations of what social media has continually put together or has formulated through its constant forms, um or contents, and now it becomes that much more, now a person, it becomes that much more difficult to really see the magnitude, or really actually be able to embrace another person's story, because you don't necessarily understand the magnitude of what they accomplished, right? And people, for some reason, what social media also does is, like, man, people for some reason love to try to measure other people, and just be judgmental of shit, right? They like to judge the shit out of other folks. Let's just be blunt. So in this process of just judging the shit out of other people, you can't even properly judge other people on social media, due to the fact that you don't even know the environment of the other person. You don't know the choices that they even had to even get themselves to the position they had. Some people don't even have the choices, right? Life isn't a game of just, people, and you social media gets you so disconnected from life that you don't understand, like, life isn't even a point of just, oh, I want to, a point of just, doing whatever the heck, and just with no regard for nothing, right? Life is based on choices, the choices that you have, right? The choices that you want. I mean, there's things that you want to do, but there's situations that you're confronted with. And based on the situation that you're confronted with, and based on your goals, and where you want to progress to, you have your choices. You have your ultimatums, like this. You can take this route, you can take that right. There's certain things you can do, and there's certain things you don't have the resources or tools to do from within that environment, right? And this is what really is measuring the person. Everybody's having their own authentic life and own authentic experience based off of this, and it's like, wherever you end up is not important. It's about the choices that you make from within the environments that you're in, and what you can do, right? You know what I'm saying? But my problem with social media and its judgmental nature is the fact that the measurement of another person is going to be based off, oh, hey, Kobe did this, or I hate to use Kobe as an example because he was amazing, let me. Well, this social media star, like I'm trying to think of somebody. I don't know. Cash Nasty did this. He's this. He's got this many. He's doing. And somebody else. I hate to use anybody as an example for this, right? But this is just for example purposes, right? Oh, hey, he did this. Flight Reacts did this. Now, and you're gonna judge another person and hold them to that standard of somebody else. Um, when the choices that a person has are completely different than another person's choices, right? Now, dealing with social media, just period, right? In the context of just social media in itself, we know everybody has access to a phone and can post a video, right? And if growing a following is really what you really cater your life towards doing, I mean, that's perfectly fine, right? But at the end of the day, the nature of social media itself will get into the psychology of people, and now this becomes a structure how you measure you measure everything. You know what I'm saying? And that's my problem. Is when we get is when there's a point to where, as people, you know, measuring at the value of everybody based on the value of somebody else, right? Now we're building a pattern of just being judgmental based off of who's the best, right? Not even in context of not incorporating the environment of a different person, the resources that another person has, the backstory, the history of that person, what they've already came through, and what they've already accumulated mentally, um, and in the progression, what they've been through already, what they're already battling as well, right? And now, you know, all these things don't get incorporated, and these are cross, cross fields, cross outlets, cross fields and cross outlets that are now crossing over into other things and are not being incorporated into how you would measure and how you would measure a person, based on the context of whatever the context is, right? Or whatever context you try to put it in, right? It's like people's brains have a natural tendency, I almost want to say, to try to measure and gauge, I guess, like just on some judgmental type mess, like how somebody else compares to somebody else. And you know what I'm saying? I think the deadly thing about this is when it comes to a point of where a kid is trying to structure their life and trying to grow themselves. Now, um all of this is equated, right? I'm looking at Derrick Rose. I'm looking at all these invasives. I'm looking at Cash Nasty Flight. I'm looking at all these different people from all these different outlets who have all this fame and who show their good side so well in terms of like what they do, and I guess like just how their life is. And now my struggle and plight into to get to what I see on the camera, like, what I'm saying, what they present themselves on camera. I'm struggling through my life to try to get my life to fit like them, right? In terms of what they post, because they only post their light side. And now my life as a kid is miserable because as a kid I'm trying to get this unachievable life. I'm trying to reach this lifestyle in which they propagate as a kid, in terms of like just their light side. They're doing this, they're doing that, and everything is just great, and I'm completely missing the aspect of my own environment, my own circumstances, and my own choices, and where I end up. Because I'm not going to end up at where all these people propagate, themselves on the camera to be at, right? I'm going to rise to the I'm going to end up wherever I end up. I don't know where I'm going to end up, because of the environment in which I get in, right? And the choices that I make from within the environment that I get in. All of this stuff is mis equated, and now all of a sudden, as a kid, as a kid, I may be miserable, I may be struggling through life, and I may not wonder, I may wonder or not be able to understand why, my life isn't equating to what I dreamt it of equating to, or looking like how I wanted it to look. But this is because of social media, which is able to post a person's good side and post a person in one light, and completely miss all of the struggles, that the person probably goes through behind closed doors, or the struggles that a person goes through, period. Which is why I disagree, which is why I don't, you know I'm one of them you know anti social media folk, you know advocates, to be honest, because of the fact and idea that, now we're stripping and we're taking away from the authenticity of the struggles of a person's environment, the location, the demographic, the geography of a person, the terrain of the person, the gifts. What is the school that they went to? What is the gift of a person, right? How has the gifts of the person been developed and manifested, right, between from what they're taught, what they learn from their own environment, whether that environment is even teaching them certain things, and how is this then being applied for them to be able to be successful, right? From within that environment, right? And when you start to equate things like this, it's like, okay, so now, looking at the child, how is this kid? What are his chances in order to, you know, because this life's not going to look like, you know, what everybody else's life and what they see. You know what I'm saying? Uh, it's going to take the form of the choices that they have from within the environment that they're living in, and the skills and the talents that they possess and how they've been developed, right? And all that equated, that's what's going to get the person to manifest how it's going to manifest. And that's the nature of shoot, life in general, right? And all of this stuff gets missed, and all of it gets misconstrued under the fact and idea of just social media and just everybody just thinking the same thing. It don't work like that, right? You may, even on the educational standpoint, you may think that, okay, so I understand, and I'm like, what I'm saying, I'm Pan-Africanist, you know I'm a Pan-Africanist. I see Africa struggling. Let me go down and jump down there on the cars. Hold on, wait a second. Turn off the cell phone for a second. I want you to take a deep breath. I want you to look to your left and look to your right. I want you to look, what I'm saying, and go ahead and check out the geography and location of where you're living at. Are you in a position to be able to really help anybody else, right? You know what I'm saying? Are you really in a position to be able to really go out and thrive somewhere else, right? If you yourself don't have property, how the hell are you gonna help somebody else, right? Or how are you going to be a benefit or a contribution to a struggle with no land or no property, right? And you know what I'm saying? So first off, let's work to acquire this, because this is more important than anything else, and then let's do that, right? So not even on the aspect of social media just being used in a sense of judging folk, or demoralization. I'm talking about in a sense to where we're getting this disconnected from humanity, and just the reality of the fact that everybody's not living in the same situation. Everybody's situation is different, right? So when you come to me with a perspective and an analysis of, okay, I believe this and this, okay, cool, you believe that. But now when we get to a point of where you're influencing me based on how I should move, and this becomes the collective conscience in terms of just how You know what I'm saying, and just how things, you have to equate the environment, and things get missed, right? And when you get to a point to where you're collectively trying to influence, we miss the environment, the location, and the geography, the terrain, the makeup of a land, of a demographic, of a geography, you know, and now, and the history, and now you get to a point to where, and the economy, and now you get to a point to where you're being influenced and you're trying to progress to something. However, the land, the history, the terrain, the geography, all of these things based on a location of where you're at and settled and living in, don't allow you to do those things, because like we said before, life is what, three things, right? It's you, the choices that you have, your environment, and the choices that you have, right? You know what I'm saying? And that's going to dictate where you end up, you know? So it's not necessarily, okay, so I'm seeing all this on social media, I should be doing this, I should be doing that. Can you do that? Can you consciously do that in the first place? You know, and that is where the depression comes in and all these other things come in, because now social media done filled your mind with all these things that you can and should be doing that you really can't do. So that's the negative in this whole social media thing, because consciously you don't necessarily understand where you know or equate what you have and what you can do based on your own geography, demographic, location, history, genetical makeup, all of this type of stuff. And this is just a complete influence that's coming from what the hell you see on social media, right? And that's my problem, and that's my problem with social media, and its influence, because now you could be jumping into real topics and real problems, you know what I'm saying, and giving out some sort of influence to other people to do certain things that they can't do, you know what I'm saying, or getting people to react a certain way that they can't really logically or shouldn't logically react to based on their own geography, the terrain of their environment, what they can do, their own genetical makeup, their own skill set, and the choices that they have based on the environment in which they're living in. Now you're bypassing all of these things, which are the essentials in terms of how you grow and where you end up in life, and now you're influencing other people to commit to functions, I guess, and to commit, saying commit to things or commit to life a certain way, right? Which is a problem, right? Because which is a major problem, right? When a person, because now when the person can't, um, when the person can't do that, then what? You know what I'm saying? People are influenced by things, like people misconceptualize things. People are not become desensitized to people become desensitized to real life. People become desensitized to the morale factor of the morale factor of their own environment, own circumstance, and people become desensitized and demoralized to just experiences in general. Now we have a serious problem because, like I said before, now you have kids who are being influenced a certain way, and you have people influenced a certain way, and people gauge life or miscalculate life and miscalculate what they can and what they can't do, or just in their own progression based off the influence that has been brought about through a collective or conceptual mindset of social media. You can't have a collective mindset, period, because the terrain, the geography, the demographic location, the environment of each person is different. So therefore, the psychology of how a person moves and how a person functions is different, and what they progress to, the choices that they have, and the priorities and the things that they should prioritize or should be prioritizing are completely different based on the geography and the terrain of where the person is living at, right? And that's not even to equate all of the other many factors like the history of the person, the genetical makeup of a person, which is the most, you know, influential part, right? Or the biggest part, and these other factors like this, right? So now, so my thing is now, bypassing all of this, you want to try to get some sort of collective mind frame, like this is like this person accomplished this, let's glorify this, and this is just amazing, and okay, boom, and we're going to put this person over another person from an entirely different an entirely different environment, and we're gonna set this person over top of this person, and try to make this list or stack saying like this person is better than this person, and then this other person is third, and listing people like and categorizing, putting people under, like from different areas, like nah, because that's like nah, like that's literally crazy, right? So that's my thing when we really get to the aspect of really talking about just this progression of social media. It's just a matter of you make people feel a certain way based off an illusion, some shit that's not even real, like you know to make a person feel some sort of way based off of, okay, he did this, it's not the same, right? you know it ain't even the same. You demoralize and you diminish a person's accomplishments, you know what I'm saying, by doing that type of stuff, right? A person's accomplishments gets demoralized, right? A person's achievements or what they're going through, traumas or potentially potentially traumas and circumstances are being you know demoralized or overly highlighted, you know um based on based on uh you know based on what, just a post, right? So that's my 2 cents, that's my thing, and I think it's a real problem, for many reasons like that. You know, um, I get the aspect of coming together and like-minded people coming together, and that's a whole different thing in its own. Like that makes complete sense. But for the majority portion of it, most of this is really just a manipulative
Most of this stuff is just very, very potentially manipulative on a psychologically, due to the fact that there's so many different things. Yeah, due to the fact that you can really make somebody believe anything, like to these, like, in a sense of where, you could get up on social media, say whatever, and and somebody believe it, and literally what you say can be an influence to somebody else on a completely different terrain, in a completely different geography, in a completely different world, right? And you could just completely influence that person to do something, or to commit to something, or maybe even talk about people who don't, because a lot of times people get on social media and they talk about what people can't do, you know what I'm saying, and why people don't do it. Man, a lot of the times people don't do what you do is because their life is not the same. You know what I'm saying? So they coming from a whole different area, so they're not going, whole different like they're not going to do what you do. You know what I'm saying? And they didn't have the life backstory that you do. The genetical makeup of the person is different, and a lot of times we get on social media and we slander people for not doing certain things. You know what I'm saying, that they do, right? And it's like, why ain't people doing this? Why ain't people man, listen, people is not doing that because they got their own. They got their own, you know what I'm saying, whole life, their whole life shit going. You know what I'm saying? So that's why they're not doing that type of stuff. You see? And it's like, with probably equating this stuff, like, is important because, you know, influence is so powerful because it's a matter of it's a matter of how you can make a person feel about them own selves. How you can make a kid feel about them own selves based on what you say and what that kid can or can't do. Because at the end of the day, like, a kid could be influenced by anything. Like, the kid could be influenced by you, or for instance, maybe, or you could influence a kid. A kid could be influenced by what you do, or and can't necessarily do to and try to do the things that you do, right? And um you know yeah, they try to do the things that you do, and hey, maybe it's not in the kids terrain to do that, based on the location, their environment, their circumstance, who they're around, who they're with. Maybe that might not be it for that kid, right? So influence is mighty powerful, and I think that's the negative on social media. Not to knock anybody down, or to try to touch on anybody's point of what they do, because everybody has a purpose and everybody does what they do for a reason, right? Everybody's got a mission. So, but I'm here to say, or what I'm trying to express is that, is that a kid and the trajectory of their life and what they pursue can be heavily be influenced by what they see on social media, and it just be not a part of their plan at all, based you know on the geography, the terrain, and just what is around what is around them to do. Now, becoming consciously aware of something is a completely different story of its own, right? Becoming conscious of something is completely different. You know, educating and becoming educated on something is one thing, right? That's important. But uh
That's one thing, right? To be educated, that's always good, because now you can take and apply your own life and what you do, and based on all of your factors, you know, and be able to incorporate that into your factors in your life. But to try to get everybody to come down to one person and be one person, you got to be perfect, and this is the way to be, it's not gonna happen. Because everybody's living in a whole different location, and what other people say perfect is not gonna be the same thing as what somebody else say perfect. Period. Right? You can't get everybody into one collective conscious mind frame, because you can't get everybody to be to follow the same set of rules that, or what they conceive as perfection. It ain't gonna work, because then you're gonna have multiple people perfect. You got multiple quote unquote perfect people from different environments arguing with each other on what the real, you know what I'm saying? So perfect ain't even a thing to begin with in general. You know what I'm saying? So literally, you know what I'm saying? like literally that's not even a thing. So it's most important for a person to really just assess, just really actually assess their own environment, their own circumstances, and just be the best version of themselves based off their own environment. You know what I'm saying? And not based on what nobody else says, because ain't nobody else in that environment, and what they conceive as perfection in the first place ain't gonna match what you perceive as, you know what I'm saying, what you perceive as perfection within your own environment, and you know what I'm saying, your own terrain and your own options. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not gonna be the same. Some people are gonna need much more of something else based off of the terrain. Like, some people may need to more certain nutrition based on the geography of where they're living at. You know what I'm saying? Shit, if somebody living in the desert, they're gonna need more water than somebody living in a freaking living in a freaking somewhere else, like in Antarctica or something. It's all different, man. So that's the point I'm trying to make in a nutshell. But yeah, I'm gonna conclude this video right here. I hope this video will reach whomever, or this podcast will reach whomever needs to hear it, because this podcast is dedicated to the kid, you know, trying to be, you know, just falling under influence, man, and just trying to do right. You know what I'm saying? But the influence that you're getting is not from your environment. You know what I'm saying? And where you're located at. You know what I'm saying? It's based on it's based on what other people's experiences are, not your own. So you're gonna have to find your own way and be able to just figure it based off what you consciously know from within your own environment, your own circumstance, and what you know, because you're the only one who can figure this thing out, and you can't let nobody else judge you based off the decisions you make, based off the information that you know. You know what I'm saying? So that's my point I'm trying to make to whomever, and whomever's out there, that may go through the same thing, or may go through this, is to literally that right there. You know what I'm saying? So without further ado, I'm gonna end this video right here. Peace, love. You're the strongest character in your own story. You know what I'm saying? So peace, and we out this joint. Peace.